All right. Good morning, everybody. We're live here from the birdhouse, and we are in the month of June. And that means that baby birds are starting to leave their nests, and there's still a lot of other bird activity going on here in the area. So we'll give you an update on that and share some of your photos. As always, we want to know what kind of things you are seeing. You can put those in the comments, or if you have any questions, you can put those in there, or you can just say hi. And also want to thank all of you who came out for our native plant sale with Amanda's Garden on Saturday. That was a huge success. So that was wonderful. Even in the rain, she had a lineup of people all lined up to buy her plants, which was awesome. We also had our big birding cruise on the Colonial Belle last Thursday, which went on the Erie Canal. That was so much fun. So thank you to all of you guys who came out for that too. We ended up having a lovely day, which was awesome. As far as events happening coming up, we do have we've been co-hosting an art show, and that is set to debut this Friday evening at Lumiere Photo from 6 until 9 p.m. the Put a Bird on It art show. So she has been arranging all of your art pieces. There's over 100 pieces that were submitted, all of different bird artwork, and that is going to be on Friday night. You can come out to Lumiere for the first Friday opening reception of that art show. Super excited for that. So that is this Friday from 6 to 9 at Lumiere, not here at the birdhouse. You can find more information about that on our Facebook page or on our website. And we also have a book signing here on Saturday as well with Robin Flanagan, who wrote the 100 Things to Do in Rochester Before You Die book, which we are included in. The birdhouse is one of those 100 items. We're actually number 100. So she will be here on Saturday doing a book signing. So we do have lots of fun stuff going on here at the store throughout the month of June and all summer long. So let's get started with the update. Lots of baby birds out there. I've been seeing more and more every day. I noticed yesterday lots of house sparrows out there. So you might see this kind of behavior with a smaller size sparrow. Their feathers aren't totally grown in yet, hopping around on the ground, following their parents, flapping their wings, and opening their mouths, trying to get the parent to feed them. So that is really common right now. The baby sparrows are going to be brownish, just like their parents. And usually they have a bill that looks almost too big for their face, which is really cute. But house sparrows can have 2 to 3 broods a year. Sometimes I think it's more. We hear about more than that sometimes. And each of those broods is 4 to 6 eggs. So this is the first round of those baby sparrows that are coming out of the nest, but there sure will be more to come as the season goes on. Also, baby blue jays, be on the lookout for them. And also, don't be surprised if you see some of these birds just by themselves without their parents sitting on the ground. This is totally normal, or they might be perched in a shrub somewhere a little bit off the ground or on a plant stem. This is totally normal. Once they leave the nest, they enter what's called the fledgling stage, where their feathers aren't totally grown and they can't fully fly. They can fly a little bit, but the parents will keep visiting them and keep feeding them. And after several days, they grow larger, and then they'll kind of be out on their own a little bit more and be more independent than they are. So don't be surprised if you do see some of these birds hopping around on the ground. It is totally normal this time of the year. So we've definitely got house sparrows out there that are babies. We've got the baby bluebirds, juvenile red-winged blackbirds. You might start seeing them out there as well. And European starlings. I have been seeing the juvenile European starling. They are not as speckled as the adults are. They're more of an overall brownish kind of color at first. There's definitely some of them out there right now as well. So this is what they look like on the left here. That's a juvenile. They don't have that bright yellow bill yet. And also baby robins, been seeing some baby robins out there. So it's a really exciting time of the year for these babies. And just like the house sparrows, the European starlings will have multiple broods a year. So they'll have a couple broods a year, and those broods can be anywhere between 4 and 6 eggs. Now, if you're looking at the different birds out there right now in your yard, you might see brown-headed cowbird babies soon. And brown-headed cowbirds are nest parasites, meaning the female will lay her egg in the nest of other birds. And there's a picture of that on the right. Looks like a robin's nest there with those bright blue eggs. And then that white egg with the brown speckling, that's a brown-headed cowbird egg. So she will lay her eggs in the nest of other birds, and then those birds will raise her young for her. So you might sometimes see this behavior where a bird much, much smaller than the brown-headed cowbird is feeding them, like this picture of a chipping sparrow on the left feeding the baby brown-headed cowbird, or the Wilson's warbler on the right-hand side feeding the brown-headed cowbird. That does happen. Also, ducks out there. On the cruise of the Colonial Belle, we saw so many baby ducks and so many baby geese. Mallard ducks only have one brood a year, so they have one round of babies every year. But, and you might have noticed this, sometimes when you see them with their babies, there can be a lot of them. So they can have anywhere between 7 and 10 eggs. So that mother duck is very busy with those babies. And this is a photo that had been sent in the past from Karen of a mallard family that she snapped there. But then same with Canada goose. They have one brood a year, and those babies are out there right now. And that round of babies, or that brood, can have anywhere between 5 and 10 eggs. So you can see that those Canada geese will sometimes have lots of young that are following them. Bluebirds also, where we are getting reports of young bluebirds starting to leave their nest, and then those adults are starting to have their second round of eggs. So bluebirds are one of the earliest nesting birds that are out there, that we have at least. And so they start pretty early. They started in April, and those young are starting to leave the nest. And this is what an adult bluebird looks like with the young. There's 3 babies there. They're very speckled. You can see they do have a little bit of blue on their feathers, but they're not bright blue like the parents. And it is just about that time that the oriole eggs are hatching as well. So it is now time to start incorporating the mealworms into your Baltimore Oriole feeding station if you want to try to entice them to keep coming all spring and summer long. So adding the mealworms can not only help keep the orioles coming, but you might start to see a whole bunch of other birds coming to those mealworms because they need to feed their babies a whole bunch of insect protein. So now is definitely the time to start feeding those mealworms. So you can do freeze-dried mealworms, or you can feed them live mealworms. And we'll have a big delivery of live mealworms arriving tomorrow morning. So we'll send out an email about that, about all the intricacies of feeding mealworms to the birds. It's not very difficult. You can put the mealworms in the same kind of feeder that you would put the jelly in, and the orioles are still eating the jelly, so you might want to put out a second feeder or a second cup so you can give them the jelly and the mealworms. Some reports of them still drinking a lot of nectar too. We've had lots of customers who are stocking up on nectar because the orioles are continuing to drink a lot of it. But now is definitely the time to start feeding the mealworms for the orioles, because they will start to be feeding their young. And this is what their nest looks like. So you might happen upon some of their nests if you're out and about, or even in your yard. You might see these nests. They're hanging pendulum style nests that the female will weave, that usually hangs from a branch. So keep an eye out for that, and you might hear some little chirps and cheeps of the babies inside the nest. So I should also mention that we got this feeder back in stock, which is super popular. We've been out of it all spring long, and the company finally was back in stock with them. So we got a whole bunch of them in. This is a super popular feeder. It's just a little orange cup, and there's metal petals surrounding it, and those act as a perch. There's a spot for jelly in that cup. You can spear oranges on it, or you can use that cup for mealworms. So we've got those back in stock. Ruby-throated hummingbirds are back in the area as well. Not a lot of reports of them, though, unfortunately. Some people have been getting them pretty consistently. Other people are saying they saw some and then they just kind of went on their way and they haven't seen any since. So, that being said, they are here all summer long. They're here through at least Labor Day, usually through September, and even we get some reports in October. So don't be discouraged if you haven't seen them yet. They do come to feeders, but then also putting out plants that are nectar producing can really help to draw them in. So things like cardinal flower are fabulous for the hummingbirds, bee balm, any kind of bright red tubular plants. Usually at the garden centers, they are labeled as hummingbird friendly plants. So adding those in your garden can absolutely help bring in the hummingbirds as well. And if you have your bird baths out, now that it is kind of sunny again, you might want to turn it into a water feature. And you can do that with our solar fountain inserts that when the sun hits them, they will move the water and you can make it a spray fountain. You can turn it into a little bubbler. And that moving water does help bring in more of diversity of birds. If you want to help keep your bird bath a little bit cleaner, we do have what's called bird bath protector. It's all natural enzymes. You just put a little cap full of this liquid in your bird bath, and it just helps break down some of the gunk that gets in the bird bath from either the birds or the trees depositing things. So that can help keep your bird bath clean as well. We also have large copper discs you can put in your bird bath. That helps keep algae from building up. So we do have quite a few different bird bath accessories in stock right now too. And we have nesting material. The birds are still grabbing nesting material. I'm on my 4th nesting ball of the season already. Things like the sparrows absolutely love it. The goldfinches will start grabbing it soon. So these are really fun to put up in your yard and to see who will grab a beakful of nesting material. Also, I should mention, we do have window decals to help with window strikes. If you're experiencing birds hitting your window, which is common, especially during migration time, and especially when there's some young birds out there that are just learning how to navigate their space and the environment around them. Sometimes they will bounce into windows and fly into windows. And so we do have different types of decals that you can put on your windows to help prevent that. These are really popular here. These are called window alert decals. They go on the outside of your window and they reflect UV light. So these decals are fairly clear, so they don't really mess with your view out of your window, but because they reflect the UV light and birds can see in the UV spectrum, the birds can see that there's something on the window and they won't run into it. So we do have different types of window decals in stock right now as well. So that's another thing that's popular this time of the year. As far as your photos that you guys have sent in, Mark sent in this picture of an eastern kingbird, and on the Colonial Belle cruise along the Erie Canal, we saw quite a few kingbirds actually, so that was pretty cool. Kingbirds are a type of flycatcher. They tend to kind of hover with their flight, and they have that white tip on their tail. It's a good way to identify them. So eastern kingbird sent in by Mark, and then he also sent in some photos of birds from Mendham Ponds, including this chestnut-sided warbler. So there's still warblers out there, definitely. Indigo bunting, which I've been chasing. The indigo bunting, I heard some the other day, but I just have not gotten my eyes on them yet this season. Common yellowthroat, another photo sent in by Mark. This is another warbler species, and they've been pretty chatty. They are here all summer long. They'll call all summer long, just kind of like the yellow warbler does. You can find them pretty easily around different parks. And then he also sent in this picture of an eastern towhee, which every once in a while we do get reports of them being in people's yards underneath their bird feeders. So be on the lookout for them. Some other photos sent in. Here's an American redstart, which is another type of warbler. This photo was sent in by Walter. And then he also sent in this picture of some wetland birds. And if you look close, there's in the center here, there's a great blue heron. And next to it is a great egret. And then off to the left is what looks like a juvenile great blue heron. It just doesn't have the same plumage as the adult does. So you've got yourself a couple of great blue herons, a great egret, and then also off to the right, there's a double-crested cormorant. So pretty neat group photo there sent in by Walter. And speaking of baby birds, here's some mute swans with their little babies. So definitely lots of babies out there, lots of bird activity still going on, lots of birds still singing, both in backyards and out in the woods. I've been hearing lots of Carolina wrens singing. The cardinals are singing like crazy, the robins. So still lots of bird activity out there. We do have a comment from Headbanger who says, I found cardinal babies with eyes closed and baby European starling. So they are also seeing some baby birds out there. It's that time of the year. And remember that most of the time, they are completely fine on their own, even if they're hopping around on the ground by themselves and you don't see the parents. That is totally normal. The parents will come back to feed them. It's just a part of their growing up. So you can leave them be and let them do their own thing, and they will be just fine. So that's everything I have for you guys today. We'll be back on Saturday with another live stream. So until then, have a wonderful week. Hopefully we'll see you Friday at the reception for the Put a Bird on It art show, which is the first one we've ever done with Lumiere Photo. Very exciting. And we have that book signing here on Saturday. So we've got lots of fun stuff going on. We'll be back on Saturday at 10 a.m. with another broadcast. And until then, have a wonderful week and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.